Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to F1 Manager 2022, and this is episode number 5. We are pushing into the season. We've had a tremendous third race where we got a season best 14th place finish with Alex Albon, and that won't be enough, I don't think, as the season goes on, but it's definitely up there on the type of results we can expect for the season. We do have a big upgrade that is just finishing up, so we've got some work to do with that, but we also have a couple other things going on. This is just post-race here. First off, exceeding expectations. Board very happy with how things are going there. But we have a regulation vote on a minor technical change. Two options here to choose from. As you know, we may change the regulations that define Formula One's rules between seasons to make the sport fairer for competitors and more engaging for fans. With these goals in mind, we are proposing new minor technical regulations for the 2023 season. Our data suggests that it has become too easy for drivers to follow cars closely in front to gain a racing advantage. This proposal aims to create more space between cars and to reduce the number of red flag incidents. Please review the technical summary below before voting. The minor technical regulation change will reduce all teams' design expertise regarding the affected car parts. This will impact all teams regardless of their car strengths or weaknesses, so please vote with consideration of the fairness and future of Formula One as a whole, and not just your individual team. So here is what we have. Option A, cooling-focused changes, or option B, airflow-focused changes. So it's not even... here's the rough thing about this. I don't think following too close is a problem. Actually, it's a good thing. It's what the new regulations are supposed to be bringing in. 1 year later, they want to change it back to, oh gosh, we can't follow closely anymore. That's not good. Okay, well, either way, we see some obvious impacts that are going to impact things. You know, it's going to change for next year. It's minor, but it is going to change things. So we have a cooling focused change or an airflow focused change. Let's see what the impact is, because we have to pick one. It's clear that we're talking about it's either minus 30% or minus 10%. And one is everything regarding airflow is minus 30%, while the cooling is 10%, where it's flipped for the other option. So it's not good either way. And, you know, it's going to slow the cars down a little bit. It's going to make it a bit harder to follow. And either option is good. But which one is less bad going forward? I think airflow is going to involve a lot of car parts. The suspension, the underfloor, the side, well, it's a lot of car parts either way, right? But I still think cooling is a little bit easier to overcome. Means you can't follow as long, but you can definitely follow, where the other one just plain makes it harder to follow. So we'll take the cooling focus changes as our vote. 2 more upgrades complete, so we will be hopping on over to the facilities here in a moment to continue on with those projects, especially the boardroom upgrade. It looks like we have 2 more stages to go, as long as it doesn't get crazy expensive out of hand, which right now finances are up to $29 million almost. But our front wing design, so our first upgrade, the design is ready. Now we have to manufacture it. Based on how things are going, I suspect this is going to be the only front wing upgrade that we probably even make all season. Based on the way that I'm handling this, we're going for one big upgrade at a time is the goal, is the strategy, instead of a lot of small upgrades, because ultimately it ends up a lot cheaper this way, though it takes longer to get those. Anyway, 2 wings go on the car. Then you need reserves. Now, 8 reserves is probably too much, but 6 reserves is definitely, I think, a good start. We're going to need them, and we could always manufacture more later on. So we're going to go ahead and queue up 8 of those for now. We'll have 1 for each car in a week. We'll have a couple backups within 2 weeks. So depending on when our next race is, I haven't looked, we have 11 days till our next race, and that's Friday. I think we're going to be just about okay to put 1 on each car. We'll have 1 backup, and then by Saturday we'll have a second backup. No wonder we just had a vote. It's April the 11th and April the 18th. We can begin research on new regulations. Rank on the grid is a good way to kind of at least measure how we compare to everyone else. And, you know, you can see that we are essentially the slowest car So nothing is looking good on that part right now. So where do you go from here? Well, I think the biggest area to make gains is the underfloor. For anyone who doesn't know about the new regulations, the new underbody of a Formula One car generates the vast majority of your aerodynamic, your suck to the ground. That allows you to put more G's into the car without losing traction. So we're going to kind of throw everything, I think, into this one because our next ATR period is coming up in 21 days. And I think we're only going to get one thing done in this stretch. So we want to kind of go all in for this, and we'll see what we have left. And if we don't have anything left, if we don't get new points or the points are significantly less in 3 weeks, so be it. I'd rather see a wonderful underfloor on the car than nothing. So we are going to really put the hours into this. You can see just how big the increase will be if we do this. We're looking at drag reduction still being 19th, but improved. Our low downforce, low speed corners is still 19th, but improved. Our medium speed would move up a couple spots, and our high speed would move up quite a bit. And I know that front wing is going to bump us up the grid a bit as well. Airflow sensitivity also improving. But you can see just how far we are behind everybody else. We're investing literally everything we've got into a new underbody, and it's still not going to move us up that far. You got to do what you got to do. So let's hope we get some more time as we go forward. And this isn't it for our upgrades. Now, for me, it makes sense that the high speed, medium speed are what's going to be largely impacted by the underfloor. And if you understand the concept of a low speed corner, means it's really tight. The tighter it is, the slower you are. The slower you are, the less suction you have. Therefore, the underbody impacts high speed the most because you're using those aerodynamics to keep the car sucked to the ground while you apply that G-force, where at a medium speed, it's a mixture of the two, and at low speed, it's more about the chassis and the weight and the ability for the car to turn, as there's less aerodynamic pull when you're going slower. Adjusting the focus a little bit with in mind what I was just telling you about how the high speed is the most impacted and the medium speed is the second most impacted, and everything else to a much lesser extent. Adding a little bit of a focus to those will actually improve them even further. It just means the gains in the other departments become less prevalent. So I think in the end, what we're getting here for the underfloor, taking away a little bit low speed, adding a little drag reduction, it's going to bump us up the grid a little bit, but especially the high speed corners. In the end, after this, we're going to be pretty dang fast because that front wing is going to do a little bit of the same thing, bumping us up in that area. And the combination of the two is going to at least make us strong in one area, stronger than the rest of the midfield. And so there's going to be some tracks going forward that I would think we could actually probably compete well enough to score points on. The faster speed tracks. Monaco will not be our home. Spa, maybe? There's a certain portion of Spa. I'm trying to think what kind of tracks are going to have the high speed corners. It's certainly not like Monza. Monza is the total opposite. It's about high speed in general, not cornering. Yeah, it's some really, really tight chicanes there. But track specific, I think we could fare well in a number of places. That could be really good for us. That could be very, very good for us because that's what gets you to beat a couple of teams. You don't have to beat everybody every week, but if you could beat a lot of people a couple of times, that's all it takes, right? That's all it takes to get into the points. This one's a big upgrade. It's going to take almost 2 months to complete, but I think late in the season it's going to have a massive impact on us. For a cost of $1 million, that's not bad at all, and it's going to allow us to continue upgrading the infrastructure in the short term. We need more engineers, so I might look into what that's going to take, because long-term design is going to require a lot more than 6 engineers. For the most part, I've stayed under $1 million in the upgrades that we've had, but this one makes sense to me. The race confidence gain going plus 5%, that's absolutely a good thing for us to make sure we stay in our position, and I don't know if the board's super thrilled. Maybe they give us more money next season. I have no idea how that part works. But again, we raise that team attractiveness, and we've already pointed out how useful that could be. And we do have our first 5-level max upgrade piece of infrastructure. In this case, that's the tour center. I think it was already like a level 3 when we started. It was higher than most things. Since we're at it, I think it is time we get on with the memorabilia room. I haven't done any upgrades here. The first one's morale. I don't care about that. Our morale's not bad. We're doing fine. Expectations are low, so morale remains high when we aren't finishing at the very, very back. This level won't impact attractiveness, but I'm sure the next one will, as that's the categories that we have here. Weather center, it's cheap enough. It is useful to have in the rain. Having a better weather forecast is definitely helpful. I don't think I'll be going past level 2 for a little while though. 60% is not very good. 70% is a bit better. Knowing how those finances are working and how we've still managed to be increasing the money that we have, I think it's imperative now that I start turning into the next area, which is the staff facilities. So 1.5 million is going to get us another plus 10 in the team attractiveness. Again, all of that's going to play really well into bringing in new staff, bringing in new drivers, and hopefully that sponsorship. There's a morale increase, and there's a weekly experience gain for staff. Of course, we want to improve that if we're going to be competing against the best teams. Might as well get this next scout on board as well, though I don't think we'll be spending too much money on that one short term. Doubling the experience gained weekly for our drivers. Our focus is going to be on young drivers, retaining Alban as one of those, but getting a young driver in to ride alongside him. So experience gain is going to be really important. So yes, we'll take this upgrade as well. This will drop us below 20 million, but that's the funny thing. We started barely over 20 million, and we're knocking off one upgrade after another right now. There are much more expensive upgrades than these, but there's a huge discrepancy in the cost, the various sets of upgrades, and this makes it so much easier. First front wing is ready, and here's what it brings to us. Overall cornering, improvement in G-force a little bit. You can definitely handle some more Gs. Overall top speed with DRS, barely. It's negligible, but it's better, I suppose. Apparently there's slightly less drag that we have in the front wing. But dirty air cornering, definitely a boost. We're looking at almost a full percentage point in low speed cornering, and it's low. You add 1% on to 12, you're talking about, what is that, like an 8-9% increase? That's significant. That is significant. Medium speed, not quite a percentage point, but it's it's 0.75%, and it's 0.75% for the high speed as well. So both of those seeing decent gains, and the brake cooling, not quite 2%. It's good progress for us. Definitely happy with that. And in terms of rank on the grid, you add this into the car. Now we're definitely seeing gains kind of all over the place. The engine cooling is the only thing not seeing any gain. We are improving the top speed, though very, very negligible. It puts us above Latifi only. I think the bigger thing to look at is not if we move up one spot, as if we move up a couple spots. It really doesn't. There's nowhere where we move up 2 spots, meaning we're not overtaking other cars from this. It's just better than the one we had on before. It's unfortunate, but it's definitely better.
The hills of Tuscany are green to the south, but here in Imola the air is red hot. Welcome to Ferrari's turf for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. The track has been around since the 60s, but the first official Formula One race was held here in 1980. Let's see what excitement lies ahead this year. This is Imola, and it's an old school track with plenty of elevation changes and lots of corners. There's only one DRS zone here, but it follows the long straight right before Tamburello, and should see plenty of action. We might still be early in the season, but that doesn't mean we can sit back and relax. Everything is up for grabs, and nothing is certain at this stage. The weekend begins.
So I'm coming up on the end of FP2, and I think we're fairly well dialed in at this point. And at times, we have actually looked faster than Aston Martin, where in the past, we've only been able to do that in the race, and not in practice, not in qualifying. And I have a feeling, Latifi came in ahead of Stroll. Albon wasn't quite as dialed in on his setup, and I have a sneaky feeling we're going to be a little bit better off against them than we've been, meaning a little more comfortably ninth place.
Hello and thank you for joining us as our race weekend unfolds. Free practice is nearly done, and that means that qualifying awaits. Whoever said every second counts clearly hadn't revelled in the sport of Formula One, where grid positions can be decided by thousandths of a second. The drivers competing today are amongst the finest in the world, but the margins are even finer. And as you can probably guess, there is no margin for error. Stay with us as we see who can deliver on motorsport's biggest stage.
So as we're traversing FP3 here,
Here's the replay. Now let's look.
Albon.
We're watching Nicholas
Oh
Latifi.
no, it's Latifi.
They're forced wide, and there we can see them slide off.
Big mistake, slides off, but fortunately does not crash the
It's going
car.
to be a
We'll
big
take
blow
that.
to the team. Will they be able to recover?
Yes.
We'll see.
Well, anyway, what I'm discovering here, many of you asking the same questions that I keep asking myself. For those of us that have played Motorsport Manager, and in all honesty, that's the only proper predecessor to this one in the modern era. For those that have played Motorsport Manager, I think when it comes to setup, Motorsport Manager was really easy to get near 100% every race. The process was the same every time, and it wasn't too hard to get really good setups each and every race. Here, the concept, the process is very similar, not quite the same, but it is a little more complicated. It is definitely harder to dial in, and it's harder to get near 100%. That 96, 98 that we got the first time around, race 2, that's been hard to replicate. It's been hard to replicate, and I'm definitely finding that getting the most out of your setup, getting the most out of practice is so much harder. We're 20 minutes to go in FP3, and yet part familiarity that started in the high 80s, it's still only 95 with the new wing. So we're struggling to get that to 100. Track acclimatization, we are running, and yet we're still at 75 and 88%. So we're not getting that down all the way. I'm struggling to get even over 90% in these. Now, it's much easier to get over that 70% that the AI does when you simulate. But to maximize, to really get, oh gosh,
We've
another.
just had a car run wide.
I say Russell running wide, but that certainly looked like it was one of my guys. But anyway, this time it does look like I will at least get full feedback on my final attempt at a setup here. We'll see just how close we've managed to get this time.
When you have it, give me feedback on balance.
We'll keep them out till the end of the session and see what it is, as we're still trying to get the acclimatization down. It's too late to make adjustments. I think we're going to have to kind of accept both. Confidence was great. Just 91% though for Latifi. 92 for Albon. That's how difficult this is to nail down. It's not as easy as the other game, that's for sure. There's one thing that definitely goes in favor of this one. Wow, Latifi, third driver mistake. We're not even pushing, and he's making mistake after mistake. Are you sure you like your setup?
Dear.
Same corner, same mistake. Here's a look at what 92% looks like, and it is absolutely not the same thing as Motorsport Manager, because on Motorsport Manager this would be 99% easily. I mean, you could see how narrow our window is We are optimal on the straights, but we're great everywhere else. We're right in the middle of a very, very tight window in 2 out of the 4, and we're fairly close to center in 2, and yet they're all just great. None of them are optimal. Straights, we're on the very edge of the window, and yet it's optimal. So it's not about being dead center in the window. That's one thing. But that window has just gotten tighter and tighter on us, and yet we still cannot find better than 92%. And with only 3 minutes left in the session, there is absolutely nothing we can do at this point to tweak this without just guessing whether we're making it better or worse, and that will carry right over into qualifying and the race. So we're just going to accept our bonus. So at this point, track acclimatization also at 100%, but the car parts knowledge still has some room to gain, so we will go run for 3 more minutes. The difference is quite clear, though. We get the performance bonus from an 11, where the AI put us to a 14 out of 15. It's not perfect, but it is super close. And where that matters is you're getting 5 attributes, getting a bonus, and you get 3 in each one and 2 in the last. So reactions could have been an 81 if we could have gotten it perfect. It's an 80 though. It is a boost. The cornering, the braking really helping. The overall pace for Latifi is just slow, and that's the main reason why he needs to be replaced. Cornering and braking are 2 of the most important attributes, and he's in the low and mid 60s for those. Meanwhile, Albon, you can see his quite a bit better. Cornering isn't great, but he's up to a 76 and 84 on braking here. That helps. First lap already complete for us in qualifying. Of course, we are in Q1. We have yet to escape Q1, and I don't think that's going to change today. What I'm looking at, though, as we are here in Q1, is can we improve our position? Can we get a little bit further up the grid? We've been 18th with Albon and 20th with Latifi in each round so far. And so far, it's not looking good. Obviously, the Aston Martins are the only ones that I think we're going to be possibly better than. And we're still not there. We're still not there. Albon is just behind Stroll after the first lap. We'll send them back out for one more just before the end of the session and see if we can't bump up a little bit higher. But of course, my target is not just beating Stroll, which we've been able to do each round, but beating now Vettel. The new front wing not seeming to have enough of an impact on us. I wouldn't be surprised if they've had an upgrade along the way as well that has kind of negated whatever gain we had. The underfloor will be huge, but it's not going to be ready for quite a while. Final laps underway. Stroll green in the first sector. Vettel is yellow in the first sector. Albon and Latifi both green. Vettel again slow in sector 2 while Stroll looks to be improving his time. But so far both Albon and Latifi have improved their times. So we've got a real chance here, especially if Vettel fails to improve on his. Bottas, the other one who is looking to be out in Q1. Mick Schumacher on the bubble and already complete. We're just looking now at Tsunoda, Bottas, and us. Vettel not improving his time, or so it would seem. Stroll not improving his, and we're right at the end. Latifi and Albon both finishing, and Albon does get ahead of Stroll, but not Vettel. So we are right in the same place yet again, and this time Bottas with that last moment ditch effort, and he beats I think it was Schumacher to make Q2. It'll be Charles Leclerc on pole ahead of Verstappen and Sainz, and we're going to be in the same situation we've been in now quite a few times. It's Schumacher towards the back, Tsunoda, Magnussen, the other ones that we're going to hope to compete with, and then look how close Albon was to Vettel, but he just couldn't quite beat him, and even Latifi quite a bit closer than he was. So there is a noticeable improvement with that front wing from where we were. Latifi has been well off the back each and every qualifying lap. This time, less than 0.2 of a second behind Stroll, and meanwhile, Albon right on the heels of Vettel, where in the past ones we've barely been beating Stroll. So I would say we've probably gained 0.2 of a second compared to where we were. It's not much, but that could, in the race, because this is right where we've been in qualifying, that could, in the race, be enough, maybe, to, like last time, we ended up well clear, at least with Albon, of the Aston Martins. And even Latifi actually managed to beat Stroll in the end on that last one. Will that 0.2 of a second per lap give us enough of a boost to start to actually leave the Aston Martin behind, at least until they get their next round of upgrades in? It's going to be a while before our next one comes. So for a race or two, maybe we'll be comfortable ninth, and maybe 0.4 off from Schumacher, and 5 from Tsunoda. Can we compete with those guys?
Tension continues to build here as race day begins.
Williams had a good performance in qualifying. Now they'll be eager to demonstrate that they can have an even better race. Haas gave a solid performance in qualifying, and they'll be happy enough with their grid position here. Let's see if they can make it work for them. A sunny day here with only a few clouds in the sky. If things stay this way, the weather shouldn't pose any challenges to the teams.
Meanwhile, in the grandstands, the red wave is swelling. So let's find out who wins the day here at Imola. I don't want to tempt fate, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Here we have Alexander Albon. With their starting position in the back 10, they'll have their work cut out for them. Next up for the team, it's Latifi. They're starting in the bottom half of the grid today, so there's a lot of cars between them and the podium. The teams are ready to go. The crowd are on their feet in anticipation of this, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
And the race is underway, and we will see how the team fares in the early stages. I'm not pushing too hard on this one early on. I've got opposite strategies for Albon and Latifi, though same strategy essentially. So Albon's going to start on the medium compound and go to the hard later on, where Latifi is going to start on the hard and go to the medium later on. That'll put them on opposite windows when it comes to their pits, but Latifi makes a move already to get ahead of Stroll. We'll want to see pretty early on how those guys are looking in terms of what their strategy is, but Vettel looks like he has made a move as well. Vettel ahead of Ricardo. Ricardo with a terrible start. Ricardo, I think, gosh, where was he? 12th, 13th off the line, and 17th at the moment. So poor start for Ricardo, and a little bit of a gap to Albon already, 0.6 of a second behind. Oh. Okay, so I've noticed it being mentioned in the comments once or twice that you are experiencing some stuttering. And I'm looking at one screen and then I'm looking at the other screen and I'm like, I'm not getting that stuttering, but I definitely noticed in editing that I was getting the stuttering. And it's somewhere in the translation. I have no stuttering. It is running super smooth for me. But my OBS, as I glance over to my other screen, it's definitely stuttering a little bit over there. So somewhere in the translation from the gameplay to the actual recording of the gameplay is where the stuttering is taking place. So I might have to tweak the settings just to make the recording run smoother, because the gameplay itself is smooth as can be for me, but it's not about my experience, it's about your experience. So I will try to work on that. I'm definitely seeing that there is some stuttering going on, but yeah, it's on one screen and not the other at all. I thought it was just my playback when you edit. You get that. Anyway, the race that we have going on. We are 18th and 19th at the moment. Tires are getting warm, even though we're not pushing. Okay, looks like things heat up, and we've got a Haas off the track. Looks like he missed the apex on the switchback. So you had a right and a left chicane there. Not as tight as some chicanes are, but he kind of overshot the right-hander a bit, and that brings us up to 16th and 17th with Schumacher going back, and that is the one guy who we were fairly close to, as Latifi struggling to hold off Stroll at the moment. so far we have not been doing any pushing, and we are in the hard. Let's check in where we try to defend here and see what we're in for when it comes. So we've got Albon on the mediums, Ricardo on the mediums, Latifi on the hard, Stroll on the medium. So this is actually really good if we can hold him off, because we know he'll be pitting much sooner than us, and that would be very good for our position. Likewise, we know eventually Latifi's going to fall off from Albon. Not only is he a slower driver in general, but he's on the hard compound where Albon is on the medium, so we know that that gap will open. Vettel's down to 19th. What happened with him? He was ahead of us. I missed that one. Was he also off with Mick Schumacher? Did those two have a close call with each other and they both went off and I only saw one? Could be, because I think they were right there paired with each other on track. So that now has us ahead of both Aston Martins and a Haas who's going long like we are, which means he's going to have a hard time coming back at us. And Vettel, who's on the aggressive strategy on the soft, is now back in 19th and totally out of sight. And those two are paired together back there, so it very well could have been that scenario. But oh, wrong guy. Too late. Stroll has gotten back past Latifi. Now, the funny thing here is only 4 drivers have started on the soft compound. Ocon, Norris, Tsunoda, and then Vettel, who's now back to 20th. Mick Schumacher should hold him back a little bit. Yes, he's in the faster car, but hard versus soft. Vettel should definitely have the advantage at this point in the race. Lap 4. They're at 89%. They're definitely not going to start falling off on pace just yet. We have a yellow flag, another car has run wide, and we have moved ahead of Guan Yu Zhou. So Zhou makes a mistake, and he has fallen all the way back to the back of the grid. He is in P20. I think I want to deploy for a little bit with Albon, try to open that gap. I don't want to let Stroll get within 1 second. There's only a single DRS zone, I think, here. Okay, Latifi back in range. Let's go ahead and go neutral. I think holding off and being on the hard compound, following somebody who is on a faster compound, staying within range, staying within DRS is going to be helpful, though we actually get the overtake here. So Latifi, once he got within DRS range, easily overtook him. That's fine. And we have pulled away, so go back to harvest for a little bit for Albon, and gap is 3 seconds to his teammate, and it's the teammate behind now holding up Stroll once again, so he can slow Stroll down and back him off. Even though Latifi's not going to get the benefit of the DRS, he can be to the benefit of Albon by slowing Stroll up. Though that didn't last long. Stroll gets back on by and immediately pulls a second away, so that didn't last long. Meanwhile, the cars ahead are definitely pulling away. I don't think we're going to be in contention with any of them unless they make a mistake. So our race is with those behind us. In Latifi's case, it's with the guy right in front of him and Mick Schumacher, who has caught up. Latifi now vulnerable and looking to be hold Mick Schumacher at bay for a little while. Latifi just can't rely on him for really anything. He just does not have the pace. He does not have the defending. And Schumacher goes on by. Latifi dropping back. In fact, he's dropped back quite a bit from Stroll now, more than a couple seconds behind. Guan Yu Zhou has gone past Vettel, so at least we've still got Vettel behind, but Vettel also closing the gap on Latifi. But of course, that's soft versus hard compound. One much faster than the other. For now, 11 laps in, I would imagine those softs aren't going to last a whole lot long. You know what? They're actually holding up pretty nicely. Those softs are lasting longer here than they do at quite a few tracks. Quite a few tracks they would have already pit 2-3 laps ago. The longer we can hold up Guan Yu Zhou, the better the chance that Albon will later hang on to that position. So Latifi, it's all about an aggressive defense, and that means we want to defend. Zhou goes on by. He only held him up for maybe a lap. if that. Now, we are not going to deploy to defend, but if the Haas gets past, then we're going to want to stay on his heels. Unfortunately, Stroll has somehow followed Mick Schumacher. He's been able to remain in a close following distance with him, and that has allowed him to get the free toe. We had a fairly decent gap. We were a few seconds at least ahead of Stroll, but he has followed Schumacher on up to the heels. So we're going to have to watch closely for when Schumacher goes to make a move, and he has a look to the inside but cannot get by here on the straight. And he's going to have a look to the inside here. No, still can't get by. Twice Albon successfully defending, but Stroll getting closer and closer and closer. I'm afraid that it could be a double move, and that could very well not be a good thing for us if Stroll gets on by. And starting to develop a bit of a train here as Guan Yu Zhou also coming up close on us. And ahead, it's already a 10-second gap. And those on the softs are pitting, so Vettel should be pitting any moment. Schumacher has gotten past Albon and is immediately pulling away. Are we that slow? We want to stay close here. How is Stroll able to stay so close and we can't? Guan Yu Zhou trying to have a look at Albon here. And we pulled away from Stroll a bit as Zhou got by, and Stroll is now dropping back. The longer we can hang with these guys, the better, as Stroll is definitely falling off. And Albon outside of that 1 second range, losing DRS, means we're going to be ripe for the overtake from Guan Yu Zhou. Somehow we remained within 1 second. We get that DRS that time. And we hold off Zhou a little longer, but I would imagine by the next lap, he'll probably get us. Let's go ahead and push to try to stay within that 1 second. Lap 26 is the optimal time, and tire wear is holding up nicely. Unlike Latifi, who keeps overheating, Albon has stayed neutral on that, has not overheated. It's helping the life of his tire last quite a bit, but we've already made our push and are going to have to go back to balanced for now. But that helped close that gap up on Schumacher, and we'll be able to stay behind him a little bit longer, giving us an extra 2 or 3 laps. Wow, Stroll now 3 seconds back. Vettel on the mediums. I believe that strategy is a soft medium strategy, so he will have another stop where Latifi is going for the one stopper. So what we're going to need from Latifi is that when Vettel does catch up to him, we're going to have to try to hold him off for a while, as Albon is doing right now with Guan Yu Zhou. Largely thanks to that DRS train that we are in. It's really helping us keep position, keep up with the Haas, making a massive difference on our overall race. That extra toe around the track making a big difference. Latifi running wide for a second time is going to lose more time. He's having a really poor race.
Push on with the tires.
Sonoda with the spin. That's going to give us, let's see, where was he? Yeah, he's at the back because he was one of those who started on the soft and pit, so that costs him a lot of time. He's now just slightly ahead of Latifi after spinning, so that could compromise Sonoda's race, especially with the 2-stopper. It's going to give us a chance anyway at remaining ahead of him with Albon. Latifi not having a good race at all, so I don't think Latifi is going to be in a good position. But Albon able to harvest a little bit here while pushing, but that did open the gap slightly. 0.7 of a second behind now. We want to hopefully close that back up before losing ground on Mick Schumacher. I wanted to get a little more ERS recharge. We've been very neutral for a while to keep it within a second, but I decided to push and conserve, and that combination hopefully keeping us within range. And I don't know, that was 1.026. Was that the detection zone? Will we have DRS this time? I don't think we will, and that could make us... Oh, flap open. Okay, apparently we were still just within a second. We do hold off Zhou for now. Ocon and Norris have caught up. Stroll, 7 seconds back. of Norris. So that gap has really, really opened. It's been great for our strategy of beating the Aston Martins, and then, you know, if we can, beat somebody else as well. We've closed right back up now on Mick Schumacher, and we are in second place on a train of 5. Tires are holding up for Albon. For now, I want to wait to see what happens. It is our optimal lap to pit, but tire wear's fine, and those guys around us are pulling us along, so we might as well stay as long as there is a tow. So for now, that's Schumacher. If Schumacher pits, unless Guan Yu Zhou gets past us immediately, then it'll be our time to pit as well. I won't necessarily think about the overcut. It's more about just the advantages of this DRS train that we are in, benefiting us in the slower car, compared to the guys around us. The longer either way, the longer they can pull us along, the better off we will be for it. Still, no one in this train pitting. Of course, 2 of them have already made their first stop of the day. Good news for us is they have to stop again. So the longer we're able to prolong this one, the closer we're getting to them making their second stop, meaning we could find ourselves later on in a scenario where the Alpine and the McLaren are actually somebody we are racing against for position at the end of this race. They're getting held up. They are losing time where they need to be racing on up the road because they have to stop again. So this is absolutely fantastic long-term strategy-wise for us. And we're nearly halfway into this race, meaning we won't have to spend as long on that hard compound, allowing us to push harder later into the race. They're both running hards. Okay, they're both going deep into this race. So they are going to be on mediums later. They're going to be faster, but Albon prolonging and hanging with them is fantastic for us. No wonder they have not pit. So for us, we are absolutely pushing our tactic into something a little different. Oh, Albon gets passed twice. Ocon, Norris, and Guan Yu Zhou all got passed. We got pushed out wide, so Zhou finally got by, and then bam, 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 1, 2, 3, all going past. I think it's time we're going to have to make our pit. Zhou not only getting past us, but he got past Mick Schumacher as well. And then Ocon Norris still behind that, but everybody moving past me was the precipitator to heading to the pits. Now's the time, especially as we lost the DRS on that one. Ricardo, Sonoda also behind us, and we're going to come out behind Latifi, but certainly not far behind Latifi. We should be ahead of Stroll. Oof, slow stop, 3.6. Not good. Hopefully we are still ahead of Stroll. I think we will. I think we'll be in between. And we're going to be on quite a few lap fresher hards, both going the distance. Should see us finish ahead of Stroll at the end of this race. We'll see how close we are, though. We're still ahead of Latifi. Wow. Okay. Well done. Well done. That's going to take those hards to the end. Yes, Leclerc, the only driver in the front 9 who has pit. I think he might be in a good enough position. 23 seconds back. He may or may not hang on to the lead once Sainz pits. Latifi staying on the hard compound later is not going to necessarily help. He needs some more pace. So we are going to push on with him for the next few laps and go deep, get whatever pace he can. So we'll keep an eye on, well, his timings really, and see how he does over the next few laps. If he can keep up his pace while pushing, then we'll let him drive on. But as soon as he is really starting to fall off the pace, then it'll be time for him to head to the pits. Starting to see that fall off as we go yellow, yellow. Yes, Latifi is ready It's time. We're going to pit. So with that extra push, we were able to get a couple more laps on the hard compound at that pace, and this will give a little more time in the window. Latifi into the pits. Let's hope for a better stop than what we had for Albon. .7, much better. Pretty much a full second faster than Albon's stop. And he is already behind Stroll, but where are we in relation to Vettel? All right, so race situation. Albon still ahead of Tsunoda, but only by 3 seconds. And Tsunoda definitely faster. It's going to be hard to beat him. Stroll, 14 seconds behind Albon, so we are well clear. And we're done with the stops, plus our tires are fresher. So I think we will once again beat the Aston Martins today. But Latifi, I don't see him catching up to Stroll. But maybe. He's on the mediums, Stroll on the hards, and Stroll pit, fairly early. And Vettel, almost 11 seconds behind Latifi. You would think Latifi should be able to hold him off. He pit a lap or two after Vettel, and that's going to be his task today. That's going to be his task, is beating Vettel. Vettel with that double stop, Vettel with that mistake. Looks like that strategy is not going to pay off for him. Verstappen makes his one and only pit of the day, comes out 4.5 seconds behind Leclerc. Leclerc has caught Perez, and I think Perez has yet to stop. Yeah, Sainz and Perez both still need to stop. Hamilton, Alonso, Russell, Magnussen, Gasly, Guan Yu Zhou, and Mick Schumacher all have yet to stop. Do we still have a chance, Albon, with those guys? Probably not. I would imagine we're too far behind, but might not be over yet. I don't know what our gap really is. Now, Albon's goal right now is to hold off Tsunoda. I'm not sure how well we can do it. Tsunoda both on the medium compound where we're on the hard, so he's going to be faster car, faster compound, but we're already falling back from Perez. We do get DRS that time. Obviously that's going to help things. Schumacher in the pits and we're past. Schumacher is behind, so we do have a race today against Schumacher. That mistake that he made earlier and riding with him for a long time there has now paid off, and we have 6, 7 seconds, 8 seconds now ahead of Schumacher. We might beat Schumacher again today. Second race in a row. We are pushing to keep that 1 second ahead of Tsunoda this lap. He got DRS. He's going to be closer. He is within a second now. We need to extend it before the DRS zone, and it's back out to a second at the moment. We're well away from the DRS zone, but this is our race right here, right now. We've got to keep Tsunoda behind. He's been getting DRS over and over again for quite a few laps here. We've got 12 laps to go. If we are going to beat Tsunoda, it's right here, right now. Schumacher gaining 0.2 per lap. Tsunoda, after we've backed off, barely gaining. So we might still be able to hold these guys off, but it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. Ocon with the mistake. Tsunoda closing that gap again. We need to deploy what we have to try to hold him off a bit longer. It's within a second. He's going to get DRS. Did he get DRS this lap? I don't think he did. No, he did not this lap, but he is now close enough. So we are going to have to try to, again, go on the attack.
We're happy to push on if we can.
But we can't push on with the fuel. Back out to a second. 7 laps to go. Schumacher also getting closer, but I think we've got enough of a gap over him. We might have to just kind of go aggressive from here to the end on the tires. The wear won't be a big deal, and they'll burn through a little faster. The last lap might be tricky, but we are going to stay aggressive from here and try to keep Tsunoda behind us. That would be for P15. The gap way too big in front. There's no race there. In fact, we are closing up on Norris. So that's what kind of tempo we're putting out. Sonoda, Schumacher both coming, but not really drawing close enough. 5 laps to go. Crossing the line yet again. Still Sonoda, not close enough to get the DRS. 1.3. I think we're going to hold off. Schumacher is falling back. Schumacher was on the soft. His gain, his time is over on that. His tires are falling off. We've got Schumacher covered. Now it's about Sonoda. And Sonoda again getting close. Two laps to go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There is a Mercedes between us. There is a Mercedes between us. Deploy. Because here we go. There goes the Mercedes on by. And here comes Sonoda. Sonoda following him. This is what I was worried about. We've already deployed the Mercedes. Oh my gosh. Blue flags costing us everything. Everything. Push on. Last lap. We don't know if we have one more to run after that or not. Where are we in relation to them? I don't know, but the Mercedes has brought Sonoda. We had him beat right onto our doorstep. Can we hold him off? I do not know. Yes, we are set. Defend. Go defend instead of deploy. Use it where you need. Latifi, done. Latifi is done. He crosses line 19th. Sainz has won ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Leclerc, so this is it. This is the final lap. Push on. Push on. Sonoda falling back 7/10 behind. I think we are going to hold him off. The moment I saw that Mercedes in the rear view, I got worried. By the way, 0 stutter. We've got plenty of stutter on my OBS screen, so I'm sorry about that. I'm going to have to make a mistake, and Albon runs wide. Albon costs himself the position.
And that was a
Not for
bitter blow
points.
for the
It's not for
team.
points, and it's
And
not
it
for
may
our
have
highest
really
finish.
hurt their
But
overall chances.
Albon falls to 16th. Will he hold off Schumacher?
That's the lockup.
Final turn, final straight to the finish line. Do we hold off Schumacher?
Alpha Tauri
Only
gained the
just.
race.
Only just. Albon gives away, right at the end of the race, gives away 15th position, nearly gives away 16th as well, and that is P16 in the end. Stroll will finish P18, Latifi 19, Vettel 20. Ugh. Disappointing finish there, but the big thing is the Aston Martins do remain behind. Stroll, his best finish of the season in 18th. I don't know if that's better than Latifi's. I think that might move him ahead of Latifi in the driver's standings. But
What a
Albon,
pleasure it was to watch
disappointing
Alex Albon
finish,
on the track. And an
but
amazing
still
result
better
for
than the
Max.
expected result, right? Alright folks, that is going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
very
Be safe
impressive
out there.
showing today for Williams.
Bye for now.
It's really wonderful.